Right, great. Thank you. Thank you for taking care of that, Mark. We'll start this meeting. This is the monthly Central Park United Neighbors meeting on Zoom and in person at the MCA Cube. So just, I'll kind of speed through these first slides. Central Park United Neighbors is the registered neighborhood organization for the Central Park community. We provide a working forum for the residents of Central Park to participate in creating, developing, and fostering a vibrant urban community dedicated to social equity, environmental responsibility, and economic opportunity. At these monthly meetings, we facilitate the discussion of key issues with neighbors, engage in proactive problem prevention, and amicable problem solving. CPUN is committed to providing an inclusive and welcoming environment for all members of our community. Our mission is the betterment of the city of Denver by providing a forum for the residents living in Central Park to discuss and resolve issues, a network of communication, a means of acting on matters of importance in the community as a whole. We promote public service, civic discourse, collective efficacy, and we're an all-volunteer board of Central Park residents, and we're a 501c3 nonprofit. Tonight's agenda, which is kind of starting a little bit late, is just agenda overview, which we're doing now, CPUN committee updates and announcements, our community partner updates, and we have some new folks to introduce this month. Then at 7 p.m., we have Clerk and Recorder Paul Lopez is here in person to talk to us a little bit about the Office of the Clerk and Recorder and the upcoming 2024 election year. There's some time for community comment if folks want to just speak from the neighborhoods. And then for our board hour, Mark Meringer will be doing a presentation and discussion of the CPUN 2023 community survey results. And then we have a number of topics for the board that we can move on to February if we don't get to some of these, but we'll have the treasurer's update, an update on the website, email, and fundraising platform transitions that happens at the end of 2023. Just a little discussion about community meeting agenda building. Some of that is based on the one-on-one feedback I've gotten from different board members. Then outreach and board recruitment, we're starting that season. And then we have a discussion of potentially hosting a candidate forum for at least the HD8 primary, possibly I think it's HD36 is also in Central Park, and I think HD7 is uncontested, but we'll save that at the end. So now for committee updates, I think that the Central Park United, let's see, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is Mandel on the Zoom. I don't see him on the Zoom, so I'll give that update. Basically, the DEI committee will meet the fourth Tuesday of January, so that will be next Tuesday, January 23rd. And I think that probably the main topic we'll be discussing are the community survey results related to the diversity, equity, and inclusion questions that were on the community survey. All right, and so Education Committee, Carol?
Thank you. We had a very full agenda last Tuesday, the 9th, and it focused mostly on Ashley Elementary. Very quickly, Ashley last year, the last couple months of the year, had an influx of primarily Venezuelan migrants, and so their population doubled. And you can imagine the kinds of needs that they had. So we had a couple of people from CPUN who jumped in. Brian Weber was one of them with the foundation, and then Tricia Houston and Amanda Allshouse was involved. I got involved, and so we started. Well, Tricia started a GoFundMe, and it just exceeded all of our expectations. And so we're continuing the GoFundMe. We were able to do what we needed to do with that money before the kids went on break. Now we're working with gathering up volunteers. I am meeting, and Brian Weber is meeting with the interim principal this Thursday and with a woman who is the communications person at Northfield High School to talk about how we can perhaps utilize high school students as volunteers at Ashley Elementary. So we're trying to fill a lot of different needs, and we will keep you apprised of all of that. We also talked about the CPUN survey, and I had requested that we have an open-ended question on the survey about what the community thought the community could do in terms of volunteers. What kinds of needs could we, not just for Ashley, but for, excuse me, for all Central Park schools. So that's in the works too, and I'm doing a summary of that. And then we also talked about, and we need to have an extensive conversation about how we can work with other committees like DEI and collaborate, because it just makes sense to do that. And then we finally talked a little bit, we're gonna keep talking about what we are learning from our experiences with Ashley, and then how we can apply that to other schools in Central Park. Sure.
I think that health and safety, I know Jeff, I think you're on the Zoom. I don't know if you have any updates on that committee, or if that would be for another monthly meeting.
Yeah, Liz, can you hear me?
A little bit. Is there a way
little
to
bit?
up the volume?
Not great?
We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry, I'll get a little closer. So yeah, we don't have much of an update. We're still trying to figure out this committee exactly what we want it to be. Sandra and I did submit some questions to the survey, so we are going to look at those, try to see if that can give us some indication of what direction to go. We did get some Facebook traffic around the fires that were set in the green space. Jack was nice enough to respond to those and give us some information, which we did pass on to the community, and reached out to see if they were interested in talking to us, but we didn't hear anything back, so we didn't press it. And that's about it at this point. Like I said, we're still trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do with this committee, so still open to ideas from other board members as well.
Thanks, Jeff. I think that Lieutenant Hines will also be providing an update on the Westerly Creek fire situation also during the community partner updates. So we might have some more information then. Safe Streets.
Amy can't be here. I'm co-chair with Amy Campbell for Safe Streets, and so this is from Amy. She's, these are her words. There's an abundance of conversation on social media about traffic volume and the need to improve street infrastructure. We're taking steps to engage city leaders and departments to enact change.
Thank you. Sustainability. I think with Mark, do you have any update for sustainability?
I do not have an update for this month.
Okay, thank you. And then Carol's back on the floor. The INC update.
Yeah, INC is the Inter-Neighborhood Cooperation, is the umbrella organization for all of our RNOs in Denver. And they have a monthly meeting. It's the second Saturday from 9 to 11 of the month. And the board is looking, their board is looking at having different RNOs like us to host their monthly Saturday meetings. And so I think they have a grant for that. So I'd be happy if our board agrees to do that, to facilitate that. They're focusing on DEI this year. And they recognize that many of our RNOs are not diverse, and so they're going to be working on that. And finally, they want to become an educational tool as part of their mandate. So they had an extensive program, but those were just the things that they discussed at the very beginning, the focus.
I just wanted in the chat, Matt Blackburn posted for you, Carol, back to your education committee update. You said Central Park Artists is interested in sponsoring an art program at Ashley. I will connect you with Christopher Bennett, the co-chair. So
Thank
that,
you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so
Matt.
you can follow up. So now community partner updates. We'll have updates from the mayor's office. I think Peter from the mayor's office is on.
Yeah, I'm right. Hi, everybody. My name is Peter Lubin-Bella. I'm a senior outreach manager in the mayor's office. I'm the senior outreach manager for District 8. And I've had the pleasure of working with some people on the call. I want to give a big shout out to Amanda. I want to just say thank you to Amanda. She was incredible throughout the whole Good Neighbor agreement process. And I want to give a shout out to Liz. I want to say thank you, Liz, for inviting me to this call today and for giving me the opportunity to provide an update. So I won't take too long. I just wanted to touch on two things, like our progress with housing people, both the homeless and the migrant community. For the migrant community, one of the things that we've been facing with Denver, just like Ashley Elementary, we're at a surplus in terms of Denver has we've surfaced over 37,000 migrants coming through Denver, and right now we're currently housing 4,500 migrants, which is a big expansion from what we were doing last year. And so we're working within city agencies to see where we can cut some costs so we can better service the migrant population. As when we go over to the Mayor's House 1000 plan, we've been able to house nearly 1,200 people. And I want to give a big shout out to District A, because I know in District A we have 4 sites from the Stay Inn, the Cover Inn, the Doubletree, and the Best Western. And so over there, I think it's roughly about 600 people in those 4 sites. And so I just want to say thank you to District A and CPUN for being good facilitators for the conversation. I know we held several conversations at the Martin Luther King Rec Center, and I saw a lot of CPUN members there. So I want to say thank you once again, and Liz, thank you once again for the opportunity to speak today. That's pretty much it for my update.
Thank you. I will just say, Peter, the sound is a little funky inside here. So if you want to put any of those updates also in the chat, so that folks can also see that, you might be able to hear better on the Zoom than those of us who are in person.
Perfect.
But yeah, I think just for those of us who are in the room, so if there's some information you can share in the chat as well, and we'll pass it on to the folks who are in person. So then in person, we have City Council District 8. Jesse Carey is here to provide some updates from the City Council office.
I can just talk?
Yep.
Okay. It's very strange. My name is Jesse Carey. I have not met any of you yet, but I am Councilwoman Lewis's policy aide, and I will be sort of the point of contact for the District 8 office going forward. Just a couple of quick updates, mostly focused around the office's communication with the community. So at the last Saturday of every month going forward, we're going to try to hold town halls within the district and just get sort of general feedback on what's going well, what needs improvement, what questions do you have, sort of open-ended, but just want to make sure that we're keeping sort of general community involved and we're receiving that feedback in person from them. Additionally, we are starting what we're calling community panels. These are selected groups of constituents from across the district, so not just by neighborhood, but by district, and we are soliciting input to shape policy priorities for the district, especially in the following areas. So transportation is one, climate is another, and then green space and recreation is sort of the third policy area that we've carved out to begin with. And these are also sort of open-ended, but we want to gauge the best way to make sure that the concerns and wishes of the community are heard and expressed in terms of what the district is actually advocating for, what the councilwoman is actually advocating for. If you're interested in joining one of these panels, it is sort of informal enrollment. If you subscribe to Councilwoman Lewis's newsletter, you might have already seen the language about these panels. But if you're interested, you can email the District 8 inbox with the subject head Community Panel 2024 involvement, and just put your name and contact information, and we'll be in touch. We're sort of finalizing those panels, and we hope to have the first sort of set of meetings on them mid to late February, and we will announce that in both the newsletter and by other means. As far as what we've been working on at this point, I have a couple of transportation project updates. The first one is the Colfax Bus Rapid Transit is kicked off as part of that, they are doing an art project at each of the stations along the path. And they are hoping to get local and national artists involved to do some artwork with this sort of glass canopies at each station. That's currently in the RFQ stage, and that will be closing in March. The office does have a place on the selection panel, so we will be involved in that decision-making. And then the other one is CDOT, in conjunction with Dottie, is working on a set of improvements to Colorado Boulevard intersections all the way down the entire length of Denver. And we are making sure that the district is being well represented in those conversations as well, to make sure just to increase overall safety and pedestrian and bike access are sort of our main focuses there. Additionally, we have led some encampment resolutions within the district as part of the Mayor's House 1000. We were working on getting some of the other larger encampments also moved into the housing within District 8 because we do have so much of it in our district, so it makes sense to just make sure that those encampments within the district are also being taken care of. Additionally, we've been working with Denver Water on lead pipe replacement within the district. And Denver Water has just announced that in 2024, they have a couple of projects replacing lead pipes in North Park Hill. So that's pretty exciting. That's all using federal funds from the bipartisan infrastructure law. And then finally, we are advocating for a pause on sweeps of the unhoused during freezing temperatures. That is currently before the city council and has been postponed until the week after next for second reading. And then as part of that, the mayor has agreed to fund a pilot program for increased sheltering hours, cold weather and warm weather sheltering hours. So hopefully that will help address some of the concerns that people have voiced about making sure that people aren't staying out in the cold if there's other alternatives available. That's basically it. And then these are where you can reach us at. And that's about it.
Thank you. Mark, if you can go back to the CPUN slide deck, thank you. We also have, I think, Lieutenant Hines and Officer Ferenz with DPD.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what we have going on in the crime and then answer a couple of questions we've had about things that are going on. The area that we cover as far as DPD is concerned, the Central Park neighborhood is basically covered by precincts 511 and 512, 511 being north of I-70 and 512 being south of I-70.
7 o'clock.
In precinct 511, larceny is currently our leading issue and accounts for 33% of all the crime in the last 28 days. That's going to be partially due to the holiday season. Usually we see an uptick in larceny, auto theft, and theft from motor vehicle over the holidays, and that wasn't, this year was no exception. The three most common crimes we had were larceny, auto theft, and theft from motor vehicle in that order. That accounted for 64% of all crime in precinct 511. However, one of the things we've seen is that retail shoplifts have become a real big problem up in the Northfield shopping area and then also down in the Quebec Square area. To try to address those concerns, we're hosting a business watch meeting tomorrow at our station with a number of our partners with local businesses that have been targeted a lot, so we can collaborate with them to address some of those concerns. Auto theft is always an issue that we're asked a lot about. Currently in precinct 511, it's pretty widespread, but it's most concentrated by the mall. And our theft from motor vehicle cases are mostly by the mall. Again, larceny is mostly retail shoplift crimes. Moving over to precinct 512. One thing that stood out, if any of you have been watching our crime statistics, is we've had a significant jump in assault cases in the last 28 days. Those have mostly been around 4040 Quebec Street, which is the new House 1000 site. They're still getting settled in there. There's about 300, I guess I'd say, permanent residents there, plus a number that were there as part of the warming shelters over the last couple of weeks as we had this really cold weather. And we did deal with a number of primarily simple assaults out there. Nevertheless, despite that jump in the crime, violent crime still only accounts for about 12% of the total crime in Precinct 512. Similarly to Precinct 511, larceny, auto theft, and theft from motor vehicle are the most common crimes in Precinct 512. And those are very concentrated in the Quebec Square area right now, in that shopping area. That would include, the area around Home Depot, Walmart, Sam's Club, that shopping area is where we're seeing the most of those. One of the things we've been asked a lot about in the last couple months is DPD's response to both the issues presented by our new arrivals and migrants that have come up primarily from Venezuela, and then also how we're dealing with issues of the homelessness in the district. The mayor's office has been collaborating with us quite a bit to try to get as many people into housing that are currently unhoused in this city that we can. And we've been working with our various partners in the city to try to deal with some of the encampments that are located throughout the district. Some of these include tent encampments, and others are RVs. We have one permanent homeless outreach officer assigned to the district, and then we have another officer who's trained on those issues who also works in when we're dealing with particularly large encampments. So our process in dealing with those is kind of a multi-step thing, and depends on whether we're dealing with RVs or tent encampments, whether they're occupied or unoccupied. It's kind of a lot to go through in terms of explaining all the nuance of it. But suffice it to say, our officers will go out and try to make contact with individuals who are staying at these places, offer resources to them, post notices if people continue to stand in violation of the law with where they're camping or have their RVs. We'll take further action at that time. But certainly in these conditions, we don't want anybody to be forced out into a worse situation in the cold weather. So we're trying to get everybody into a sheltered situation that we possibly can. One of the issues I was asked about from the last meeting I want to touch on real quick is the case of the fire that was set down in the Westerly Creek open space area. Just to give a little background on this, arson cases are investigated by fire investigators rather than the police. We just assist in the initial investigation and send it off to fire after that. In this instance, where essentially just grass was burned, I was told that they determined that they weren't able to make arson charges against the individual, and instead hit the person with more of a public orders crime for the open burning in the area due to the lack of damage to private property or people. The individual who was responsible for that has not been taken into custody yet as of this morning. He does have 2 active arrest warrants in his name. So if he's somebody you see wandering around the neighborhood, you can give us a call and we can go out there and try to contact him. He does have 2 arrest warrants out at the moment. So we are trying to get that individual to come in and face those charges. Additionally, I know we've had a lot of questions about traffic lately. We do have a new traffic officer in our district. Officer Randy Chavez is serving in a traffic enforcement role in the district. And so whenever we get complaints of speeding, reckless driving, or issues that we might be able to address from a police perspective, we are trying to get those over to him so he can give those some real targeted enforcement. So that is all I had in terms of my update. I don't want to take too much time. I know Danae wanted to provide some information real quick on the upcoming commanders meeting we have this week.
Yeah, so just real quick, good evening, everybody. We are hosting our commanders meeting this month. As many of you know, we are hosting every month now, Thursday at 6 p.m. Since we now have our new station, we are hosting our first meeting at our new station in our new community room. We will also have a virtual piece as well, so it'll be hybrid. It's kind of special for us because we have our chief present, and it'll be a meeting in our new station. So we would love for you guys all to come. And that address, I will put it in the chat, but it's 12025 East 45th Avenue, and it's this Thursday at 6 p.m.
And we do have a brand new building we'd be really excited to show off to all of you. So for it be the first big commanders meeting in our community room, we'd love to see you all there. I just want to respond to a quick question I saw in the chat for us about the folks that are camping with their RVs in the residential areas. Please call that into us. Call it into our non-emergency number, or call out to the station and speak to one of us. We'll make sure that we get that over to our homeless outreach team so that they can go out there and start the process to address those RVs. I also see a question real quick. Has there been an update on? There hasn't been any talk about splitting the district. I don't know if you mean making District 5 into 2 districts, but with regards to that, there's no plan to split the district. However, we are expanding our staffing within the district. We are doing the best we can to increase staffing as the community continues to grow. And our new station that we just opened last month will accommodate significantly more officers than we currently have. We were kind of at max capacity on our old station, and with our new station, we kind of plan for expected growth here in the future. And that's all I had, unless anybody had any other questions for us here. Well, thank you very much for having us tonight.
Thank you for joining. Before we move on to, I know we have the MCA, I just have a quick question for Peter from the mayor's office about the Good Neighbor Agreement stakeholder group. Folks were wondering if there is, if you would have a little bit of an update on that and the timeline, if you're still on.
Yeah, no, I'm still here. No, thank you very.
Okay, thanks.
No, I was gonna say thank you very much for the question. I didn't forget to mention that. So for the Good Neighbor Agreement, we actually finalized the Good Neighbor Agreement. We sent out some nominee information, and so we're waiting to hear back. But we're still working on the committee, and we should finalize everything sooner than later.
Contingent on the patent.
Yeah, if folks can mute themselves who are in the Zoom, just so we can hear them. But thank you. So just so I have it right, Peter, you finalized, sent out the emails for the nominations, and then the group will start convening shortly.
Yeah, so we're still working on the process yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll have community update emails going out on the 2nd and 4th Mondays of the month, and I can follow up with you for just some information we can include in those emails as well.
Thank you, Liz.
And so, thank you. We can move on to the MCA. I saw a question from Richard Caldwell for the MCA about alleys that are blocked by cars or people putting their trash receptacles out. And I think that's actually a 311 question. So I'm happy to provide some information for you, Richard. That's not an MCA question, that's city services. So that's right-of-way enforcement and zoning inspections. So I'll put the link for Pocket Gov for you to make those kinds of reports. And now I'll let the MCA talk. All right, Kara Thomas.
Hi, my name is Kara Thomas. I just had a question for Officer Hines. Do we need a name in order to call in the person who's wanted if we see this person? And can we possibly get a photo of this person to share within the community?
Hi, Kara. Yeah, I was actually just typing a response to you when you asked in here, so this will make it faster to just answer this way. You don't necessarily need a name. I know a number of community members have told me they know exactly who this individual is. You know, if you see that person and you recognize them from previous encounters or this particular instance, you can call our non-emergency number and say, hey, the person who was responsible for the fires is out in the park. We don't know his name, but I was told that he has 2 warrants for his arrest, and we can get out there and see if we can make contact with that individual. I'm also going to have our homeless outreach team keep an eye out for him and see if they can make contact with them on their own. I don't currently have a photo that I can publicly disseminate, but I can look into that. And if we come up with a photo that we can publicly release, I will see that gets sent out to the CPUN board so they can share it with the community.
Okay, thank you. I just don't know what this individual looks like, so just heard it talked about on the under the Facebook pages, so I don't know who to call in if I do see this individual. So thank you.
No problem at all, and we'll do what we can to get him in custody. His warrants right now are both misdemeanor warrants. As I said, the fire investigator determined they weren't able to do arson charges, which would be a felony charge against the individual just because of the nature of the fire. I don't want to step out of my lane too much on that. I'm not a fire investigator, so I'm not exactly sure where they draw the line on that. That's just what we were told with how the investigation progressed on their end.
Let's move on to the MCA. Diane.
Hi. So we are in the midst of just getting things up and running again and going full force, getting ready for all of our programs to start. The first thing we will start with is our kind of informal educational process of all of our new delegates. So we do have a few new delegates. We will be working with them and training them tomorrow. And then in February, we will be nominating our new board. So that's kind of the process that we're in right now as far as that goes. The dues did go up $2. Everybody's dues went up $2. And basically, for the most part, what that covers, besides the influx of new parks that we're taking on, it covers the increase in our minimum wage. And because we hire close to 175 young people in the summer, we have a huge amount of payroll that we work with. So that's our biggest cost besides landscaping we incur. So that is one of the main reasons why the dues did go up. Jack, I don't know if you have anything from community services you need to add at this time. I think we're doing pretty well. Regarding snow, typically we get out into the parks with each snow, as soon as possible. But we don't go through the alleys and knock anything down until we're over 6 inches. So until the city is plowing the streets, we're not plowing the alleys. So that's something that some people have to adjust to. If you live in Denver, you're just shocked that anybody does your alley for you. So because in other parts of Denver, that does not happen, only here. So
we have one question in the chat. Mark Berenger is asking, can you let us know if any delegate districts do not currently have delegates?
We do have a couple that did not. We have one that had a 4-way tie. We have, and I don't know which delegate district that is.
Which ones?
Thank you.
What part of the neighborhood is District 1 again?
East Bridge. We've elected a delegate in District 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Open seat in District 7. Elected a delegate in District 8, 9, 10, and 11.
That's it.
So does the 4-way tie get resolved tomorrow, I guess?
I believe we'll be flipping a coin.
Actually, we still don't know because we're reaching out to all 4 to see if all of them are still interested, because they were write-in votes.
Okay.
So we're trying to find out if they're interested. So we're doing a little homework on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I know we're very behind the schedule right now, so I think I saw Daria on from Sam Gary branch.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm gonna go ahead and try to save some time. Just let everybody know that we hold one-on-one drop-in tech help appointments now on Wednesdays. They're from 11:30 to 1:30. So if you know somebody who needs help setting up their email or social network, they have questions about their tablet or phone, just have them stop by. Like I said, Wednesdays from 11:30 to 1:30. And we also now have resource navigation held on Fridays in addition to Wednesday afternoons. So all day Friday, there's going to be a peer navigator at the branch. They can help navigate social service system. They can assist with applications. They can connect people with resources. Also, the winter reading is in full swing now. It's an adult reading challenge. So you can explore library services. You can find your next favorite book. And all you need to do is just pick up an activity brochure at any of the locations. You can do so at Sam Gary, and you only need to complete 5 activities, and then you trade it in for a prize. There's also a coupon for 1 free book from any of the Friends Foundation's pop-up book sales. So you get that as well. And then as part of the winter reading, we have some programs at the branch. So tomorrow at 5 o'clock, we'll hold a free screening of The Green Knight, and we'll have a discussion afterwards. And on Wednesday, February 7th, we'll host an hour of book bingo. And it will be centered around best-selling books of the last 3 years. So 2020, 2021, 2021, 2022, and 2023. We'll have some cookies, some tea. There's some really awesome bookish prizes that I'm very proud of. I want you guys to win. And this will take place on Wednesday, February 7th in the community room at 6:30. And then one last program I really want to make sure is on your radar is the African drumming with the Kusojia Nobi Drum Ensemble. It's led by teacher and musician Bob Hall. And we are just so excited to be offering more music programming at Sam Gary this year. It's not something that we used to do a lot. So this one's just not to be missed. Bob's been drumming for over 45 years. He performed all over the world. So make sure you catch this one. It is scheduled for Saturday, February 3rd at 10:30 a.m. I put some links in the chat, and if there's any questions, let me know.
Thanks so much, Daria. I see we also have Nick from Northeast Transportation Connections.
Yes, thank you for your time. Just a couple of quick updates. Winter Bike to Work Day is February 9th. We'll be at Stanley Marketplace from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. We also have an after party this year at Second Dawn Brewery, and that's from 4 to 7 p.m. And also Mackenzie at Hart Family Cyclery. They're doing a station over there with Glacade Coffee in the morning also. So come check out both of those stations. And we also still have those free bike lockers at Central Park Station. The first 48 hours are free. So just go to those bike lockers. They're the huge gray boxes. They're kind of close to like where the bus lanes are. You can scan the QR code on the locker and download the app from there and store your bike. Thank you.
Nick. And now we have Rachel and Lillian have joined us in person. And they're, I think you're co-admins for the Facebook groups on the migrant and refugee support. So since there's been a lot of activity in our neighborhood around this, I wanted to make sure that we had updates on current needs and the work that you're doing in the neighborhood. So you're going to provide a little brief update today, but actually our guest speaker slot for the February meeting will actually be a deeper dive that will include your voices and some of the other folks who are advocating around this too. So go ahead.
So my name is Rachel, and I am a co-admin among many others. It's Central Park and Park Hill Venezuelan migrant support. We support mainly the shelter Comfort Inn at I-70 and Peoria. However, we also are connected to all of them. I just want to leave people with this. I'll try not to go long. But imagine walking through a jungle. It's
called the Darien Gap, literally walking up mud hills, climbing over fallen trees, all while you're 6 months pregnant, carrying a baby on your back, or have an upset, hungry child. This is what they're doing. Migrants are doing every day, trying to reach a better life. They leave everything to risk their lives, risk being robbed, raped, and so much else because they are being persecuted against in their own countries in South America. Let's see. They're coming to us in flip-flops in the snow. Somebody yesterday when we were out serving lunch was in a very cute leather jacket, but not for negative temperatures. They have to wait 40 days to get work permits, and they are literally going door to door. I had someone show up yesterday, door to door, trying to get any kind of work for shoveling snow, anything. I think a work permit is over $400. So they're not allowed to work. They're not allowed to work because they don't have papers, but they have to wait to get the permit and get the money to get the permit. Let's see. So we are total grassroots effort. We started through the Highlands Facebook page, which everyone may have heard about. It was a bunch of moms who saw Zuni and Spear, tons of camps, and they just came in and helped. Now each shelter, city-run shelter, has a Facebook page. I think we're up to what, 8, 9 shelters, something like that.
How many are there?
Like 8 or 9, I think. Each one has a Facebook page run kind of the same way. And there's also Facebook pages for the different encampments around town. Yeah, so we're literally grassroots effort. I was serving lunch once at the shelter and someone was blocking a driveway and the businesses do not like that. And I said to them, please move. And he's like, who are you? And I said, somebody from Facebook. So it's literally like, we're people just like everyone else trying to help. Since December 8th, we have fed daily 100 to 200 people. That's once a day. We have a meal train fund that has raised over $2,000 since December 8th. And we are using that to supplement meals, snacks. Currently, we are going to help a mom go up to Wyoming tomorrow and give her some money for food. Yeah, so this isn't ending. And many of the people who started with us before Thanksgiving are dwindling. So we need help from the community. I have with us, so we have an Amazon wish list that gets delivered to my house and then we kind of distribute. We have different events where people come and pick up for specific families. Very basic stuff, hats, gloves, sanitary pads, diapers, medicine, everybody's sick, toothbrushes, all of that. Then we have our meal train, which serves, depending, we ask for 100 meals for lunch. They get breakfast and dinner, but it's not very substantial. So this is their one warm, healthy meal a day. So we have the meal train that you can sign up for. I have the Amazon wish list, and then we have a great event at Stanley Marketplace that was started on Tuesdays from 10 to 7, and it is Stanley basically let us use an empty store, and we have people who come, migrants who come and just sell their stuff. Some guys started making dog leashes. They found a YouTube video. Some people make really good food, arepas. There's a kickboxing class, tons of stuff, and that is continuing to grow. So check that out. Yeah, so whatever help anyone can give us is very appreciated. We are doing this as most of us, I think, as our second non-paying job. So we're in it for the long run and can use any help that anyone can give. I will pass around QR codes for Amazon list, Stanley Marketplace flyer, as well as our meal train. If serving 100, 200 people is intimidating, feel free to, if you have $5 to donate, it will go to good use. We'll go deeper next month.
And just to reiterate a couple points that Rachel said, I just really want to reiterate that this is like very, very grassroots effort. Again, this is just like so many of us from around the community who have many different jobs and are all coming to this space outside of our normal work hours. And like, because of that, we are constantly trying to find new folks who want to join in our efforts and find new ways to provide capacity and support. Our primary focus on Facebook is really just connecting people to people and people to resources. So that means everything from having people sign up to bring lunch to the Comfort Inn and do that food service, to having people be able to donate in a monetary capacity for those who have that capacity. We have other people who have been starting to host migrants in their home or in their guest suites or ADUs. We have other folks who join teams to help people who are hosting, to help with language support for those who are bilingual, help resource navigation for those who just have time to like call. I called Human Resources the other day for family and I was like number 79 in the queue. So like there are so many different ways to help and so many different ways that help is needed. So we just want to say, if you have any interest in joining support for this community, there are a lot of different ways to be involved. There's a lot of different like capacities and experiences, skill sets that can be really useful. And it's all really organically happening on the Facebook page. So please join our Facebook page. If you're not specifically in an area near like the Comfort Inn or in Central Park, like tell all your friends. There are now sister Facebook pages for support in the Highlands and 6th and Federal. I think there's one that started in Boulder. There's one further up in Northeast Denver for the 4 different shelters, city-run shelters off Tower Road. Also want to give a huge shout out to Councilwoman Lewis's office. We've been working with Tiffany very closely on our efforts, and they've been huge advocates to help us figure out how to get involved, because again, we are not an official nonprofit or involved in any like official organization capacity, but we're just trying to connect however and wherever we can. So any way that you would like to help, please join the Facebook group, reach out to one of the admin via Messenger, and we'll help connect you where you want to go.
And I put my email down here, Rachel, and yeah, anything, I feel like we keep on saying it, but I worked, 8 hours today, and we literally have other jobs and people are losing steam, and this is not ending. So anything that you can do.
I added all of the links that we had shared out in the community in the chat. And I'll put your email address also. And something that I've liked that I've seen is that there's peer support. Like there's also a peer support to help prevent burnout, but it's like an all hands on deck thing. So thank you very much.
I'd like to add something. First of all, our family is involved in this, but there's so many things that can be done. If you just have a little time, not the money, we need you. And we need the money, obviously. But let me tell you, get your kids involved in this. I had a 10-year-old neighbor who was better than us, the adults, at making the sandwiches. And we just had this assembly line. I had 3 teenagers who went the day of and who handed things out. They prepared all the bags the day before. So there's just a lot of different ways that children can be involved in this. And I'm happy to be a resource, and to make suggestions about how kids can be involved, and they love it. So thank you.
I'm also on the Facebook page, and I was told to take close to the Colorado Changemakers Collective. Is that like a good drop-off location?
Yes and no. So they've been wonderful partners, and they're like right next to the Comfort Inn, and they have a really organized and well set up way to distribute clothes to migrants. But I think they're overwhelmed by donations because of the generosity and the resource-rich capacity in this neighborhood. So I would say call first, try there first. They have a very small staffing. There's like 3 or 4 of them total, and so they've been a little overwhelmed. So I would try calling there first. If not, there's a nonprofit called All Souls Denver that's very active on the Facebook page. Candace Marley is the person who always posts about them. And they are kind of also taking on additional capacity to collect and distribute clothes too. So it's another option.
We are asking clothes not be brought to individual houses, because we have people in houses that are being overflowed by clothes that we just have to be able to organize and distribute. Yeah, so tell everyone. Did you have a question?
What are the three codes again?
So there's QR codes coming around. One is for our Amazon wish list, which has all the basic necessities, winter wear, stuff like that. The second is for our meal train. So serving lunch, it's 100, I'm about to bump the numbers up to probably 150 or 200 daily to serve lunch. And that's 11 to 12:30 every day. And the Stanley Marketplace event that we have going on Tuesdays from 10 to 7. You can come support migrants, donation-based, amazing food, exercise classes, tons of stuff, and it keeps on growing. And again, you don't have to live in Central Park. I live in Lowry. So just tell whoever, spread the word, please.
And to Peter from the mayor's office, if you're still on the Zoom, we are trying as hard as we can and as often as we can to work with the mayor's office. So I know we have a couple folks in our group who are connected to Evan and some others, but if there's any other ways we can connect to constituent services or work with you all, we are very eager to do so.
Also sorry, and then I'll be done. Huge shout out to Same Cafe, if everyone can support them. They're on Colfax. They stand for So All May Eat. And they are, you can work and volunteer, or you can pay what you can to get a really substantial, nutritious hot meal. They have, through the end of the month, volunteered to serve 200 people Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. And they need all the support monetarily that they can get to continue this into February.
They need volunteers also to help with meal.
They need everything. Yes. They've been amazing to work with, great food. Yeah, Same Cafe on Colfax. Yeah.
You're gonna have I think if folks have other questions, they can put them in the chat or ask. I guess actually you have to leave, so maybe
I can hang out for a little bit.
Figure out other questions. I do think we do need to move on in the agenda.
Yes.
I know Layla is on from Bluff Lake, and then we have our guest speaker. And so if we can, I think the community partner updates, and then Lopez will give us an update. I think for the board hour, since we are running so far behind, Mark, if we could actually, for the board items, if we could actually just do the community survey results, and then table everything else to our next meeting or stuff that can be covered by email, we'll do that. I just want to make sure that we kind of stay within the parameters of our meeting. So, okay. Layla from Bluff Lake, do you have any updates?
Just a couple. I know that our camp registration is something that's very interesting to a lot of Central Park residents. It opened, early registration opened January 1st, and then full registration opened on January 8th, and it is very almost all full. So if you do have interest in having your kids going to camp this year, I highly recommend looking and seeing what spaces are still available, getting on those wait lists if there are certain weeks that are of interest to you. And also to note that next year camp will look very, very, very different because we will be in the midst of construction if all goes well. So this is kind of like the last year of Bluff Lake Camp, as a lot of folks are familiar with it. So it's an exciting time. It's a time of change. And with that, our capital campaign has been going very well. So we appreciate everyone who's been involved. We're at 5.7 million committed right now. So we've just got and then a good amount of grant applications that are out there that will hopefully get us to that 7 million goal that we have. There are a lot of free events going on right now that we just have like every month, like our bird walks. The next one is February 3rd. Our Nature Wonders that have started. They're the first Friday of every month, so February 2nd. And then we've started back up our Family Adventure Days. Family Nature Adventure Days. We were supposed to have one this past weekend. Obviously, that didn't work out. But we should have another one February 10th, which will be focused on owls. And then we have a Spanish-speaking nature program as well. That's February 4th. All of these are free, and you can register. Some of them you need to register for, like our walks and our bird walks and things like that, nature walks. But those you can register for via our website, blufflake.org. But the family nature days, you can just come between, it's usually between like around 10 and 11. And until like about 1 p.m. But check the website because sometimes the times change just depending on the program that we have. So that's pretty much it from me. It's a relatively quiet time of year, but again, if you haven't registered for camp and you're interested, please do see if there are any spaces left. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Thanks for the update. All right, I don't think we have anyone from Friends of the Front Range Wildlife Refuges. So we have Clerk and Recorder Paul Lopez has joined us. We're going to talk about preparing for the 2024 elections, how Central Park residents can get involved, and then any other questions that folks might have for you. So I'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you, Liz, and I appreciate it. I'm really actually happy to be here in person. I'm a former city councilman. I represented West Denver for a long time, for 12 years. And I used to always look forward to going to all the community meetings, RNOs and stuff, and just engaging. And, as county clerk and recorder, it's a little different, the role, right? But I did want to kind of circle around. One, to get to know you, but two, just so you know what we're up to. It's no secret that, elections are a big topic nowadays, especially that we've gone through the local level. This will probably, I think, I stopped counting how many elections. I think this is going to probably be my 14th or 15th election in 4 years, right? Almost 4.5 years that we've ran. We tend to average 2.5 elections per year. Sometimes 4 of them, like what we have now. Right now, we're dealing with a recall election with some kind of district, Green Valley Ranch. Somebody didn't want to resign because there's some stuff happening, there's some drama, so they're recalling it. It's a small election, 10,000 people, but we run it with the kind of commitment that we would anybody else. Here's the easy way of kind of mapping out in your head when you should be, the last day you should be turning in your ballot. March 5th is the presidential primary, right? You have 23 days before presidential primary. When we mail you your ballot, you get it. It's very easy to vote. I don't have to preach to the converted here on the importance of that. But I will swing back and talk a little bit about what else we're doing outside of just making sure we're counting the ballots accurately, right? Next date that you got to remember, and remember they're all 5s, okay? March 5th, presidential primary. The state primary will be June 25th. Okay, last day to turn in your ballot. And obviously November 5th will be the big kahuna, Super Bowl. And we are gearing up for that as well. That'll be November 5th, last day to turn in your ballot, right? They're very important elections. We just came off of the municipal cycle and the general election cycle. And I think, the November coordinated election. It is absolutely imperative that we don't forget those dates and that we do everything possible to make sure that people are turning in their ballots. The biggest challenge that we have and that we're facing is misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation's the wrong information. Disinformation with intent to deceive. It's me saying, oh yeah, if you're voting for me, vote the 5th. If you're voting for this person, vote the 6th. Turn in your ballot the 6th, right? So it's that kind of thing. We face that all over the place. Social media is terrible. It's great, but it's terrible because it deceives folks who may not be coming to your neighborhood association. They may not be involved May not. Their entry to politics is, yeah, I'll vote for the president. That's about it. And they disappear for 4 years, right? We want to make sure that people are participating in whatever capacity that they can. What's changed about our office is something that I believe truly kind of helped me when I was a councilman, but even before then, people didn't realize, people didn't know me. A lot of people don't know me before I was a city councilman. I was a community organizer before it was paid, before you got paid for it, before it was cool. And we did voter registration. As a union organizer, got people involved, participate, come to the table. I represent janitors, right? We want people to participate no matter what their background is, no matter what their status is. We have so many kids in Denver that are facing a lot of issues, serious issues. For example, when most of us did drills in schools because of a tornado. Some of us because of a missile threat, right? But when you hear those sirens, but these kids now, there's no siren. All of a sudden somebody walks in the door and there's a loud sound and they all freak out. And it could be somebody just dropped a book. And you know what I'm talking about. My daughter's trained to wedge a chair in the knob of a door so that gunman couldn't get in. Their voice matters. They may not be able to vote, but they have a role in this democracy. Our new neighbors coming in that have been, our new Americans, right? They have a role in this democracy. We have folks who have been here for ages that have been dreaming their whole lives, but still don't have a path to citizenship and are not voters. They have a role. May not be able to vote, but they can still participate one way, shape, or form or another. There's nothing to put a CPUN meeting tonight sign in their front yard or to participate in your guys' activities. That's participating in democracy, right? We have young people who cannot vote yet, but they can qualify to be student election judges, like my daughter this year for the first time. That's the other thing that we need. So the first thing is our whole philosophy kind of changed in the office. It broadened out and went a little deeper and said, what does it mean to participate in this election? When we say democracy, we talk about defending the democracy. It's just defending the ballot, then we go away, kind of like Mariah Carey during Christmas. Or what do we do all year round? One, to get people to think that way, and two, to increase turnout. A lot of elections officials will tell you turnout's not our responsibility. I'm here to say that it's part of our responsibility. We're not in there in a lab. We want people to participate. Our big goal, my big goal for the office, is to create a culture of participation. Over time, we'll be used to participate. We've been working with programs that Celia, my manager on the call, my community engagement manager on the call overseas, where we are working with students to do mock elections. I'll go into their classes and we'll talk about voting. We'll pair up with their civics teacher to get on the schedule. We'll bring them to the elections building. No one too young, too old. They all come in for it. And that's the other thing I offer to you guys. If you ever wanted to come see what it takes and kind of behind the scenes, not really behind the scenes, they're out in the open for yourselves. I welcome the CPUN to come over and do a tour. We will open the doors for you and you'll be able to just give you the grand tour of the whole thing. We want to combat disinformation because where we combat it is not necessarily social media, it's at your tables. It's in your interactions. That's where we need help. We do need election judges, right? We have plenty of folks who are involved in campaigns and everything else, and that's all great. I have to run a campaign every 4 years. I appreciate that on my own, right? But in every election, we can use people to be your everyday citizens, your everyday folks who are registered electors in the state of Colorado to come and be election judges. It's not volunteer, we pay you. And it's a great way to participate. We have former senators, we have a lot of vets, a lot of folks who in the private sector say, hey, that's free time. I would love to participate. Hey, I've been seeing all this misinformation. I'd like to be part of it. But not misinformation, but democracy. We're going to need about 2,000 election judges. To put that in perspective, this last election, we only had about somewhere north of 320. It's going to be a huge task. We're going to have 36 vote centers open all around. Just perspective, and 11, including the mobile, right? We will have, hopefully, our 48th drop box in Denver County by the presidential election in place.
Or which neighborhood?
We're looking at East Colfax and I'm looking at Lopez. Those are two areas where there's not a drop box anywhere near. And we've worked with East Colfax to work with Arapahoe County and Adams, because here's the good old secret in the mama's kitchen is in elections is that you can actually drop your ballot in any county's drop box as long as it's there before 7 p.m. So that's a tri-county drop box. But a lot of the feedback that we got from East Colfax is we just have no infrastructure. Kind of out here hanging on a limb, and there's a lot of issues that and as Clerk, we had our engagement team go out there and listen and offer a solution. The drop box can only be placed with certain standards. It has to be assessed, has to be have to have eyes on it. Can't just be bolted into a fence. We gotta actually put it in the ground and gotta withstand a truck hit, right? Has to be well lit. We have to have access to the camera 24/7. Right? I pride myself in now having 48 boxes, more than any other county in Denver. We've almost doubled the amount of boxes in the last 4 years. It increases access. And it's much more efficient. It's an easy way to vote. People get villainized. They get villainized on national media because they think it's all fraud. I've came across people who are of every political background, love their box. So that's not a debate. For us, the challenge is how do we battle the disinformation? And I'm asking you, as our neighbors, to help us do that. And if I can count on you, and we will come by, give you the resources or whatever. But also in Listia, I'd love to see your wonderful faces as election judges. Usually the most involved are folks that come from schools, and teachers, parents that are involved in PTA, or your neighborhood associations.
What's the time?
It depends. It depends on your role and what you'd like to do. Some are seasoned election judges and they're supervisors, so they got to report a week out, right? Some of our election judges are, working the score system, which is basically our voter list. They're literally almost all on-call part-time employees. But then there are folks who are just coming for the last 2 days of election, right? They're setting up, they're greeting folks. We have folks who are translators, election judges, so that people need help in Spanish, as our Section 203 requirement, but also to help guide folks who need assistance in other languages, right? So those are the things we have a lot of Democrats. I'm not saying, being judgmental off of the conversations I heard here at this table, that there may be a lot of them here. We also need Republicans. We need a lot of Republicans. Unfortunately, leadership in the Republican Party has discouraged Republicans from participating. And it is unfortunate because we lead a bipartisan model. Our judges are Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated, and are working side by side. Every process is a bipartisan process. Every time a ballot is touched, handled, picked up, verified, and counted, it's a bipartisan fashion. I don't get involved. I have my First Amendment rights that don't fall by the wayside just because I'm elected. However, it's not our business to, the candidates or the issues, get into that. Just want to make sure that we run a fair election, secure and transparent, something as excellent as the voters intended it to be. So if you get on our website and study, she could put that in the link.
Put it in the chat.
See. That's the kind of energy we want, and that's the kind of information. If you can get that out there, we would really appreciate it. I wanted to come in person to take questions from you, and also to let you know that it may seem scary, it may seem overwhelming, but that your elections division, the clerk and recorder's office, this is like, I need a different analogy because I get in trouble with this analogy all the time. People think I'm calling pigs. My old political science professor says arguing, debating, talking about Thanksgiving kind of dinner politics with political scientists, sooner or later you're going to realize they're kind of like pigs falling in the mud. They actually enjoy it, right? Those arguments, those family, they actually enjoy it. Our elections, our folks in the elections division are what we do. This is what we signed up for. We love being able to defend the democracy another time, like another opportunity on a big stage. We love showing Denver off too. You had a question, sorry. So your signatures, it depends. If you are a young voter and this is the first time you've registered to vote, and have not provided a signature or a form of ID right away, we have to verify that with you. When they register to vote, they use that signature is scanned. Sometimes they do it online. When they do it online, if you're a young voter, first-time voter, we say ID required, and they have to send a photocopy in, right? A person, okay? So first of all, the statewide system is a system for every single county. Only a handful of folks in each county are trained to provide maintenance on this system, this list. If you voted in Denver and then same day went to Boulder, try to vote twice, which is a felony, we will catch you. Why? Because it gets canceled out in the system. We got it. We all see it in the state. Your signature is saved during multiple kind of contacts with the state. Those of you who have driver's licenses or IDs had to provide a signature. It's a crappy copy of your signature, but it works. And we're able to actually verify that. There's what we have 2 tiers of that. When your ballot, you send in your ballot in your envelope, you're not signing your ballot, you're only signing your envelope. That envelope comes in, verifies the right envelope, comes in before 7 p.m., not 7:01. Goes through a high-speed scanner. It's an Agilus system. State of the art. We just installed the second one in Denver. High speed, scans it, compares it against the database, tells you green light or red light. That's tier 1. That moves forward, right? If you're like me, your signature changes over time, depending on if you're actually paying attention and it's your loan that you're writing, right? Or you're paying the bill at the bar and you're like, going to the next spot. We are able to just see that signature. If it is questionable at all, it goes to tier 2, which means to an election judge, and the bipartisan team sees it, they verify it. In order for it to be rejected, they both have to agree. And if it's rejected, all we do is we contact you, and you have 8 days post-election to be able to say, this is my signature, or not. If you don't respond, that vote's not counted. Okay? And I hope I simplified that enough. It's a much more technical process, but it has human eyes and scanner eyes. Uh, I, no, it's not. It's actually a very small number, and because of the fact that we've been getting better at it, because the state has also introduced better touch pads for your signatures when you're signing on those, we are able to do that at a much quicker rate. And also, you can, what you call it, securing your ballot, right? If you have a problem with your ballot, signature was mismatched, we contact you in 8 days. You can actually take a picture of it. We have a program on the phone, take a picture of it, picture ID, it comes to us, we verify it, it's done. That number, I can tell you, has changed in the last 4 years. And it keeps going lower, 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 which is a good sign.
If I can
yes.
just say, in my experience, curing ballots, so like ballots that
were we affiliated with a party or we were
not
neutral?
counted. Excuse me?
Independent.
Okay. Okay, once I'll just make my comment. In curing ballots, it's usually a lack of a signature. Like when I've gone to folks, it's usually voters who are 18 to 19 years old, who have registered but not actually sent in their signature to the state.
Because they registered online.
So it's a signature issue, but it's the lack of a signature and not a mismatched signature because of the online registration for first-time voters. So that just anecdotally, that's been my experience.
Very, very few come up as cures. If you do have to cure, we contact you, voters notified. If there is a mismatch though, however, if there's a mismatch, and we can't agree that that's the signature, then that gets moved forward to the DA for investigation. We turn a blinder over of any kind of suspicious signatures or mismatches. I could tell you that the rate in which there's some kind of funky business is so small, it's like 0.00006. It's like very statistically almost nothing. And I could tell you the one person that we did in my time as clerk that we were able to go after, and the DA got it, took the case, was somebody who actually voted for his missing wife. And it was a high profile case. I'm just going to say that. And it was used against him in court as evidence. We catch those things. Okay.
One question, Paul, online.
Yes, sir.
It says, can you, what would it take for Denver to move to ranked choice?
Ranked choice voting. That's a question that has to go in front of the voters, either through the council referendum process or the voters actually getting a petition to get on the ballot and put that question on the ballot. It's something that, I believe we'd be able to run with the same kind of success as any other election month. I appreciate the question.
Though, is it not? That's the Secretary of State that has to go petitions.
No. It goes to us.
It does?
Yeah. In municipal elections, right? For state coordinated elections, things like that, definitely would have to be Secretary, well, not the Secretary of State, but they would have to go in front of the voters in Colorado in terms of the law. Now, I know that there's a lot of talk about it. I know that the state allowed municipalities and counties, if they wanted to move to a ranked choice model, if the voters or decided to, depending on what the city's bylaws or charter say. In Denver, you'd have to change the charter to require a majority of voted people.
Just got one quick question.
Yes, sir.
How do you purge? What's your procedure or protocol to purge voters?
Inactive voters? Inactive voters and how we purge is based off of state law. We don't forward ballots. If you move and somebody else gets your ballot at their address, they send it back. Post office sends it back to us. They don't forward it to where that voter could be. As a matter of fact, when somebody gets somebody else's ballot, it doesn't get returned to us because it's an unvoted ballot, because it hasn't been returned. And if they even tried, which is a felony, we would verify that signature, right? How we purge if you do not participate in the last 2 general elections, and we cannot contact you. That ballot's been returned the last 2. Per state law, it's But these are mostly folks that have moved and didn't change their voter registration or notify us. I mean, that's the last thing you let somebody know when you move. Oh, I gotta call my clerk and recorder, not to tell them, and I gotta get myself removed from those roles, right? So I can vote in Illinois. But the good thing is that we have a statewide system and we're able to track that. Now, you may hear something on national news. Some people want us to get ourselves out of a system called ERIC. ERIC is a national system in terms of how we follow voters and comparing to make sure that people are not voting twice in federal elections in two separate states, right? So there's a lot of levels in terms of what we do. The good thing is that it's hard to become an inactive voter. If you catch yourself in the slammer, and you are convicted of a felony, you lose your right to vote temporarily. So as long as you're serving your felony sentence. If you're awaiting trial, you can still vote. If you're there for a misdemeanor, you can still vote. And we actually have a vote center in our jails. If you are not convicted of a felony and currently serving your sentence. Right? We go to all the hard to reach places, assisted living facilities. We have a team that goes out now. We're in pulpits, we're in neighborhood associations. We do everything possible to make sure that we have access to it. I don't want to keep you all up too much because I know that you got other things on your agenda, but I know this is very important. And I want to be here to answer those kind of questions. I appreciate those questions.
Just a quick follow-up on the ranked choice. Well, ranked choice voting is if it was a citizen initiated kind of referral to the ballot, how many signatures would need to be collected citywide?
It's a percent. It's a 5% of the signatures of the total is registered or participatory in the last mayoral election. I gotta look at that.
Okay, so we can follow up with that, but it's several thousand.
Oh yeah,
signatures.
yeah. It's not easy.
And then,
but it's enough to. It's not impossible.
Well, I know that a couple of years ago, like the clerk and recorder's office recommended different charter changes.
That was us, yeah.
And so I'm wondering why was, I know ranked choice voting was considered by the stakeholder committee, and why, I guess, like, where was the decision made not to include that among the, because it's a lot easier.
And I love you, Liz. I want to come back to this organization.
It's a lot easier to get it referred by council than to collect all of those signatures. So I guess, like, why wasn't it done then?
So we recommended because, so we had a problem in that Colorado's elections were becoming much more technical and much more advanced, and Denver's election law, especially when it comes to our municipalities elections, a little bit, it's collecting dust, right? It was like an 8-track hanging out for a bit. Where we had a problem was that by state law, folks who are overseas, people who are serving in uniform, people who are Americans living abroad, there's a 45-day mandatory period in which they get the ballot sent to them and they'll be able to get it back. In a runoff, in a municipal election, you have less than 30 days, which comes into a conflict. We had to resolve for that because we don't want to disenfranchise folks, especially the folks out there literally get taken a bullet, right? So in order to do that, we moved the election back. So we provided recommendations. One was a kind of like a multiple choice, or vote for as many as you like, right? And then whoever got the most votes, right, wins out of all of it. I like this person and this person, right? That's plurality, right? The other model that we explored was ranked choice, where it's an instant runoff. We can still have the election in May. Be done, right? Instant runoff, which is be tallied up. First, second, third, fourth choice, however long you want to go, right? And we're able to do that. The other thing is, we just said the other opportunity, the other way to skin a cat is just to move it to April. Council didn't want to hear about ranked choice voting. They didn't want to bring it to an official hearing. was not on the agenda, even though it was provided to them by my office, by myself, yours truly, saying these are the two models we would go for, either move it or institute ranked choice voting, which we would be able to run. That council wasn't ready for it. They didn't refer it to the ballot. They didn't want to hear it in the meeting. I was a little sneaky though. I would ask any questions. In my answers, I'll talk a little bit more. But it is what it is. This council, I know there's the conversations happening about ranked choice voting. Like I said, it would be, the council would have to refer it to the ballot for Denver to say yeah or nay to. And it would have to be a November ballot because you want, everybody would have to vote on it. It would just be a Kendra independent.
So I think like to answer Amanda's question in the chat then is the easier process is to ask your council members.
Is to get your council to do it. Right now, you know, as the Denver's chief elections official, you know, we got the bill, we were able to produce, you know, what it would take to change it. I made that public. Council members have those copies. We've updated that a little bit. And we stand on the ready should council want to explore to do that again.
Thank you. Yeah. There's I think do folks have any other questions for Lopez?
Anybody looking on getting hitched?
I was gonna say that's what's in what I was going to.
I could do it tonight, but I would rather not. I would say, you know, I'm not for me. I'm just saying. Anybody looking to get married, we got you on February 14th. If you want to be corny and get married on Valentine's Day and do all that cool stuff, then we can do that. Celia put that in the link. We're gonna have they got me dressed up as Elvis, and we're gonna do a kind of like Vegas style marriage. Yeah. Yeah. No, we don't issue the refunds. Issue the license. Take that business somewhere else to the other. But
hey, can I make a comment?
Yes.
Hey, what's up, Paul? This is Bonnie Sanchez. We met maybe back in 2012 from La Raza Leadership Conference.
Right.
Hey, man, I just became a citizen, so thank you so much for your letter. It took me 28 years to finally get a chance to vote, and I'm very excited to vote in the 2024 election. And I'm very glad to have you as a clerk, recorder.
I appreciate you. That makes me feel good, and I'm glad now that you're able to actually send that ballot in. Make sure you do it.
Hey, man, I will for sure. I've been waiting this for a long time. So that you gotta represent our people who can't vote. There's so many reasons and factors, but yeah, it's another step going in the democracy and trying to also make sure my voice get heard. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Well, I appreciate.
And then thank you for running the process. I appreciate that. I know it's not easy work.
I appreciate that, Mr. Sanchez, and I appreciate you participating in this association. I love it.
All right. If you have any position about bilingual, how to get more people to vote, hire me. I'll be there.
Hey, send us your contact information. Start as an election judge, my brother.
I do have a question, Bonnie. If you want to email me, I sent you my email. We do have some positions opening up.
It's now a job fair.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. And I don't want to take up too much time, but if myself or my team can be any resources for you all in the future, please let me know.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I like your logo too.
Oh, there was a contest when we changed the name. So,
all right.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Take care. Have a good night.
Good evening.
Okay. Just a quick, we'll do just a quick look ahead for the next guest speakers. And then I think we'll just close out the meeting with Mark's presentation and any discussion of the 2023 community survey results. But just as I had mentioned earlier, the February meeting, we're going to have a deeper dive on the kind of situation that has led us to the migrant and refugee kind of crisis that is happening in the city right now, and ways that folks can advocate on multiple levels. So will join us for the February meeting. I believe it's February 19th, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. And then in March, we're going to have a development update. It'll be a continuation of the update we had gotten from Kelly at Brookfield Development in the fall. She's going to be joining us again in March, and we'll kind of continue that conversation. We don't have anybody signed up for community comment right now. So if folks want to speak or hold their peace, otherwise we'll turn this over to Mark to present on the community survey results.
Give me a quick second to get those loaded up.
Oh, no, thanks. We'll take a breather for the moment. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, I've got them ready to go if you guys are, but if anybody's still in the restroom or anything, I can do a quick hold. I'm not sure though how visible these are all going to be, and given the limited time we have, I would say put your questions in the chat and I'll try to revisit them as we get back. A few of these demographic ones we have up front are going to be, I'm just going to kind of go over quickly. Mostly I just wanted people to see that we kind of have coverage fairly broadly throughout the neighborhood, but it's not necessarily even as to how many we've got in each area. But one thing I wanted to highlight was the North End numbers have really picked up in terms of the number of people we have, where we have 11% of our survey takers said that they're from North End and 7% from Beeler Park. So I feel good about that because it means that we're getting some decent representation from the newer areas of our neighborhood. I don't know what percentage of the overall population they are, but it's not super low. So I think that's a good thing. The other thing that I think is interesting is I don't know what the move-in numbers have looked like since 2019, but 2019 is our peak year of when people moved into the area. And we haven't had a ton since then. So we may have a lot of newer residents that we haven't reached yet and who didn't know about our survey or don't know about us. So that's sort of the gist of those first two slides for me. The next one, again, these are just some demographic ones. Sometimes people ask us, or often people ask when we do these surveys, why do you ask this question? What, relevance is it? And part of it is just knowing what part of the community we're reaching and how the people we reach differs from what the overall population looks like. So for example, I'm pretty sure that our neighborhood isn't 61% female. If it is, then great, we're doing a terrific job of balancing out the gender distribution here. But I'm pretty sure it's probably closer to 50-50, like almost every area I've ever seen is. But that's what, sort of the value of looking at some of these categories is asking, is just to know who we're reaching, who's not. And then also with some of these questions, we can break down the results based on those categories to see if there's subcategories to see if there's something relevant there. The other thing that I find utterly fascinating doing this work is the high concentration we have in what I'll call the mostly Gen X and somewhat millennial age categories. It's pretty unusual to have that high a concentration in that small of a age group. So it'll be interesting to see how our community needs, issues, discussions, et cetera, change as we, shall we say, age into the older categories. Though the older categories used to be much smaller than they are. So they've started to go up a little bit. Going on to the next slide, there's this one, oh, I forgot to label this one properly. There's one on the bottom on the left that says household makeup and it has 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's basically how many people I believe live in the household. It might be the number of kids. I forget exactly what the question was. Sorry for mixing that one up. The other thing that I think is interesting is our population of students has really shifted to be a little more balanced. Those of us who moved in back in 2005 will remember when it was, almost 75% kindergarten to fifth grade or something like that early on. And we're finally getting a little bit more balance across the age ranges. So that's encouraging. But we haven't really seen, the previously predicted drop off in kindergarten to fifth grade or elementary school age. I think there's still a fair amount of that around our neighborhood. I think it's more, we can't tell from these numbers, but it hasn't really like fallen off like some people had said before. So this last one on the bottom right, though, is the one that is, again, utterly fascinating to me because our level of higher education is, again, obscenely high compared with any other area I have ever seen. To have the majority be postgraduate education is just like, off the charts higher than any other area I've ever worked. And I've worked in cities and districts across the country. Usually it's more like a third to, on the high end, half are college educated or higher, but we're, getting, our results are getting majority postgraduate. So keep that in mind when you think about what our neighborhood's like as compared with other ones. We also have a few more questions that we haven't, some of them which we haven't asked before, but some we have. Our divorce rate is surprisingly low, considering how many families we have in this area, and that the divorce rate tends to be a lot higher than what we're seeing. So I don't know if that's a good thing, bad thing, or what. Another area where we are, shall we say, weird is our income levels, which usually track pretty well with education levels, are also really high, disproportionately so. We don't have what I would call a broad mix of incomes like the rest of the city might have or the rest of the state has. It's pretty, again, concentrated. So that sometimes happens when you focus in on a geographic area, but we are a pretty highly concentrated geographic area. The other thing that's a first time question is the religion one. And this is another one where we kind of are abnormal. The categories on the bottom of atheist, agnostic, and no affiliation, when you're looking at demographic results from surveys, those are sometimes categorized together as the nuns, not N-U-N-S, but N-O-N-E-S. And again, these are exceptionally high numbers. In younger generations or categories of groups, they might hit 30 to 40%. But for the age range we have, for it to be close to 2/3 having no religious affiliation is very different. And I think it might be a little different than most people are thinking of communities, because we certainly have community events focused around Christian and or Jewish traditions, which, again, we have sizable groups there. But for the nuns to be, a substantial or supermajority, gives me a little bit of a second thought about thinking about the issues that we face. Moving on from the demographic stuff, I'll look at the overall community ratings. I do have some historical data to compare with on some of these categories from last year, but as we've seen in previous years, our parks and elementary schools are still highly rated. Our crime rate, there's a little bit of a concern. So I should reiterate, this is a 0 to 10 scale, which is what it shows on the bottom here. 0 is really bad, 10 is really good, 5 is a neutral. Our worst issues are on the negative category of traffic, crime, and housing affordability, but they're not what I would call horrible. Now, there are some parts of the neighborhood where, say, for example, the North End and Beeler Park, their grocery options ratings might be down in the 3s, or their restaurant options might be down there as well. There's some big differences in some of these based on where in the neighborhood they are. But our overall ratings and crime actually was fairly even this year. And as you compare it with the numbers on the right, it hasn't gone down at all from where it was last year. It did go down a little bit from where it was in 2021, but we haven't continued that decline. We've kind of leveled off, it appears. So we'll see if that takes a tick up or not, and if people start noticing the drop in crime rates that we've seen reported in national stats or not. But that was, to me, actually a bit of good news that the number hasn't continued to drop. So crime is one of the few negative categories. Traffic is also a negative. We'll need to keep an eye on that going forward to see what people think about that. Transportation is, barely in the positive range. Restaurant options, grocery options are also in the positive range. The restaurant's really not super high, and I think I've seen a lot of closures there. There's only so much we as a RNO can do about that, but we certainly can do something. And then housing affordability, I don't know if we've asked that one before or not. I don't think so, but it's certainly in the negative range as well, and a citywide and statewide issue, if not a national issue. On the right side, we've got our old quality of life or overall quality of life ratings at the top compared with the one at the top. So we actually went up 0.1, so not what I would call a significant change. Transportation numbers went down a tad actually in the last year, and traffic went down a tad as well. But again, not huge shifts, and then crime was level. This next chart is to break down where people are more concerned or less concerned about crime within the neighborhood. These numbers I think are a little more level than what I remember seeing from last year. Bluff Lake in Denver is a 3.9, I believe that was, and Wicker Park is a 3.8. I believe the 3.9 there is that area of our neighborhood was one of the lowest ones before as well. But we don't have any parts of the neighborhood where I would say that this part feels completely fine and the rest of the neighborhood is concerned. It's pretty much widespread. I would say that there's concern. There's a couple areas where it's a little less concerned, but not non-existent. I think last year in the previous years, there was a little bit more variation. Like North End had previously been as high as 6 rating, and now it's at a 4.9. So it's definitely gone down there. And then, like I said, Bluff Lake in Denver was a 3.6 last year. They're up to a 3.9 this year. They were a substantial drop. So they're starting to possibly rise. Well, I just like to track those kinds of things going forward. I've got a few questions I got to skip through that are for some of the committees, but there were a few things here. Oh, we had a couple things about questions in here about the homelessness initiatives and whatnot. This one was about Denver Mayor Mike Johnston has announced plans. Now, keep in mind that these were results back from October. There's obviously been a lot of news since then, but at the time there was, I would call somewhat attention being paid, where 65% said somewhat followed the news and announcements about the plan, and only 26% said they followed closely. Next question was, have you attended a meeting? Only 4% of people had attended a meeting at that point, which I would rate as, view as obviously quite low. So, most of what people are seeing is what's in the news, not whatever's going on in the actual meetings. There was at the time what I would call soft support. It was about 63% said that they supported the plan, but I think a lot of that's changed since then. So at the time, I would say there was soft support. I don't know where the numbers would be at this point because I think there were some details that got changed up. But excuse me, this was specifically for the purchasing of 2 hotels. But that's, I think I'm glad we asked that question to know that there was majority support for that. And then this was another question about something else. I think most of the rest of our questions for the general feel of things were towards the end here. So these last couple of questions were, one, what percentage of people have held a block party? Only 20% did in the last year, said that their block had held a block party. That's, I'm pretty much assuming that if people aren't sure that, they would know, but only 20% reported having held a block party. In terms that used to be kind of a centerpiece of one of the things we used to do at CPUN, but it's really kind of fallen off. And then the last one here is about what people are most interested in. The development updates is, significantly higher than everything else. Denver Police is second highest. Hearing from elected officials, like we just did, was the third issue there, and then it kind of goes down from there about what people are interested in. But there's still, the one thing that was kind of interesting is the overall interest in Denver public schools is more mixed, but the intensity level of the number of people who are very interested is actually, that was the second highest one. So that I think was like like an interesting bit there. We've got a few questions. What is the total N for the survey? That's a very Amanda question. Thank you, Amanda. The total number of responses for the survey was 1,268. Oh, and Liz answered that right. What are the years on this crime graph? Let me go back to that one. I believe you're talking about this one. This was the orange ones on the right side. We've got the orange ones was 2021. The blue one is 2022. Oh, that's a different one. Hold on. Same again. On the right side, it's 2021 for the orange, 2022 for the blue, and then on the left side, broken down by area, it's 2023. So feel free, if you're not in person, to take a screenshot or something like that. So I went through that a little faster than I thought I'd be able to, but we only have technically 3 minutes left in the meeting. So if there are any other questions anybody has at the top of their head or any other issues we can cover, I'm happy to do so.
Are we posting a link to this on the website, Mark? Do we typically do that?
Sorry, you were very quiet and then got suddenly loud. Can you say that again?
I just asked if we're going to post the results on the website, if we have the ability to do that now, or.
Generally, what we've been doing is posting the meeting recordings to the YouTube channel, but we can, I believe, I don't know. We can try to post these results.
Possible, yes.
I'm always a little reluctant to post what do I call it? Just the raw numbers out there without much explanation or contextualization for them. So for what I would call the lay people to read, but that's just me being extra nerdy as a public opinion researcher who understands that sometimes what's the old adage? There's lies, damn lies, and statistics, and I think most of the time that's people misusing statistics inappropriately. But if people really want to put this on the website, we can. I'm happy to share it with the board at a minimum.
Now here's the question: is a statistic worse than a lie?
Yeah, I'm not going to go down that road today. Sorry, Jack.
Well, I just have, I mean, is there a way to provide, I guess, like some kind of framing context if we posted it on the website and then posted a link both to this meeting when it goes up on the YouTube channel and to the presentation. But I guess if there's any sort of like framing or context that you'd want to put around this, can we add that before posting it on the website?
I mean, I think the best way to do that is just to rely on the recording.
Okay.
Because to go through and add additional stuff means taking away from other projects and other things that I'm working on, which I'd rather not do. Unless somebody wants to volunteer to transcribe everything. So.
That said, I think it'd be good to put this on the website.
Yeah.
Because all those people would really be interested in this. It's fascinating. And we just saw that the majority of people who responded are college educated, and I think they figured it out.
No,
and also
postgraduate educated, postgraduate, as in like master's degree and higher. That's the crazy thing, is majority is postgraduate.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also, it says something, I mean, from the perspective of like the DEI committee is just, and the conversations we have around outreach. Because if you look at census data, it's not like the response, I think the responses on this survey are not necessarily representative of even the census data from 2020.
Well, I know, but it's self-selected.
No, that's what I mean. So it says something about how we do outreach.
But I think it's transparent. We're going to ask them and they answer, but I think they need to know, it's good information for them. That's, I think people would be really interested. It also draws people to the website and see, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's real value.
Yeah, no, I would like to. Mark, I'm happy to just kind of transcribe a little bit of your presentation. And we'll pull together a little blurb and just check with you to make sure I haven't misrepresented anything.
Okay, sounds good. I'll add the one thing I forgot to cover that I meant it because you mentioned outreach is the own home versus rent number. I know is horribly off. from what the community is. And it's one of those, we really should figure out a better way to shall we say, outreach in a way to get to those renters.
Yeah, actually, well, so I'll just say this really quickly, and then if anybody has any final comments or questions. I actually have a meeting with Tim Roberts, who's the president of the board for East Colfax, the East Colfax Neighborhood Association, which is a very high renter neighborhood. So I actually was going to be speaking to him partly specifically to talk about what sort of outreach and inclusion they do for the renters in the neighborhood, or if that's something they struggle with too, to just kind of brainstorm some kind of, opportunities around that with him.
Yeah. And I'm sorry we don't have more time for discussion and stuff tonight. It obviously was a challenging night for sticking to the agenda, but I would personally welcome anybody who wants to discuss some of these results, particularly as it relates to outreach, to our next Outreach and Communications Committee meeting next month, where hopefully we can strategize a little bit on how to close some of the gaps between what we see here and like you all were saying, what we would see in, say, census results or something, so that we're making sure we're hearing from the entire community.
We should think about changing the date of that, because it's not only Valentine's Day, but it's also Ash Wednesday.
Oh,
so,
okay. Yeah, we'll follow up.
I'm putting that in here.
No, thank you.
I just looked and I was like, oh, I was going to say it's the 14th. Then I was like, oh, not only is it Valentine's Day, but it's also Ash Wednesday.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I suppose we can't have it on Mardi Gras.
50% of the neighborhood cares about that.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to echo some of the other comments, Mark. Like, this is a lot of work to pull together and then pull together all of the survey results, and you do it every year. So thank you, from all of us on the board. This is, this is great information, and I know the DEI committee will be looking into the DEI specific questions and kind of looking at them against the demographic data too. And we'll follow up. Any other final questions and comments? Okay, we're now 4 minutes over, so I will let
yeah, let me just add, if you have if your committee looks at its results and has questions for me, do not hesitate to ask me if you want me to drill down on something else or do that. I'm happy to drill down on things as best as I can. If it's an ultra time consuming thing, I'll probably say, yeah, sorry, that's going to take too much time. And I'm happy to give you the raw results to do it yourself. But if there's something, quick and easy, I'm more than happy to look for something or just to give you my thoughts on the data. So I don't want you to feel like, the committee's all you get is the report and that's it. I can answer questions if you have them.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Mark. And I'll let everybody else get on with their evenings. I know there's lots of bedtimes happening now. So thanks for joining us this month. We'll figure out the Zoom link for next month, and we'll see you on February 19th.